Today I'm going to show you one of Postman's most powerful features that can save you hours of development time, and I'm talking about mock servers. Have you ever been stuck waiting for a backend API to be ready before you can start building your frontend? Or maybe you are working with a third-party API that's unreliable during testing. Well, Postman's mock servers are here to solve exactly these problems. In this video, I'll show you how to create mock APIs in minutes, explore the key benefits, and walk you through a real-world example that you can follow along. So let's jump right in. First, let's quickly cover what API mocking actually is. API mocking is the practice of creating fake endpoints that simulate real API behavior. Think of it as creating a temporary stand-in for an API that doesn't exist yet or isn't available. Here's why this matters. Instead of waiting for backend developers to finish their work or dealing with unreliable external APIs during testing, you can create predictable, controllable mock responses that let you continue developing immediately. Here are some key benefits of using Postman mock servers. The first benefit is that you are going to have parallel development. Your frontend and backend teams can work simultaneously. Frontend developers can start building against mock APIs while backend APIs are still in development. Then we've got consistent testing. Mock servers provide predictable responses, making your tests more reliable. No more failing tests because an external API is down. One of the most important benefits is that this is going to be cost-effective for the development process, as you're going to reduce calls to paid third-party APIs during development and testing phases. Okay, let's get hands-on. I'm going to show you how to create a mock server for a third-party API and how to use it in a Spring Boot application. Let's start by looking at the API we're going to be mocking. So I've chosen the NASA API. More specifically, the Near Earth Object Web Service. The API we're going to mock is this one here. This is the specific call that we're going to be using as an example. So first of all, let's take this example query and let's actually run it in Postman. Let's call this REST API. So we're going to get the Near Earth objects starting from this date to this specific date, and we're going to also pass our API key. I'm just going to use the demo key for this tutorial, but you can just go online on the NASA website and get a free API key for your testing. So if you click send, we should get back a response. So we got back 27 elements. These are all near Earth objects. What we want to do now is actually click Command S and we want to save this request. So I'm going to call it get near Earth objects, and you can create a new collection. I will call it NASA APIs because NASA has multiple APIs. In case you want to add more endpoints, you can do that. So let's click save. As you can see, the request has been saved. What we also want to save is this response down here. So you go here and let's click save response. We can see that a response gets saved for this request. And we need to save this response as we're going to be sending this back as our response. So now what we want to do is actually create a mock server. So what you want to do is actually click here, configure workspace sidebar. Scroll down here and you want to enable mock servers. You are going to see this new option, mock servers. If you click on it, you are going to see this. And now let's create a mock server. I will call it NASA mock. And we'll create this from an existing collection that we created earlier. And the collection is NASA APIs. You can also add the network delay, but I'm not going to add it, right? This is the whole point. We want to be able to quickly test our application, so I will not add any kind of delay. And let's click create mock server. So a mock server has been created, but the base request, the base URL we now need to refer to in our application is the one provided by Postman. So this one here. Make a note of it because we're going to need this soon. Let's now take a look at our Spring Boot application that we're going to be using as an example. I already created the Spring Boot app with a controller, service class, and a client class that connects to the NASA API. Let's have a quick look. So this is the request mapping. We have created one get endpoint that gets all the asteroids. If we go inside, we can see that we have a service class that then calls a client class to get the asteroids. And we pass in a date. So we pass the current date, and as end date is today +1. And if we look here, we can see that this API URL is actually the base URL of our NASA API. And then we simply do a get request and we get the objects from today's date up to tomorrow. And this is going to return us all the near Earth objects for those specific dates. If we were to run this application and call this REST endpoint the get asteroids, this would be calling the actual NASA API. And as I said, we might have some limits, we might not want to do that. So this is where we're going to be using our Postman mock server to get our responses and do tests. So if you go to application.properties, in here, if you remember, I told you to save the mock server URL. So let's go back to our mock server. If you click here, NASA mock, you can get the URL back. Let's go back to our application and let's post that as a base URL. One thing to remember is that in a real application, you will have multiple application.properties. So for each environment, you can have a different mock server, or you can refer to a proper server if you are in a staging environment or in a production environment. When we call the getAsteroids method in the client class, we pass today's date +1 for the end date. If you remember, in our collection, we have start date as a date in 2015 and the end date a date again in 2015. So what we really want here is today's date, 25/09/24. The end date is going to be tomorrow's date. So in this case, it's going to be 25/09/25. Let's click send. So this is going to get this data from the NASA API. And then we're going to be saving the response for that. You don't need to generate a new response. You can just reuse the one we have. But the actual request, you need to have matching parameters, or I believe it's not gonna match. So there is a way to have dynamic matching, but I wanna keep this simple. So we have a new response. Let's just save it. This is going to be saving this with the new parameters. I think our mock server is now configured to receive our request. So let's go back to IntelliJ. Our application is running. Let's go to Postman and let's see what happens when we send a request to get asteroids. So we are getting a 500. Let's see what is going on. So it looks like the method has not matched. Let's see, double check your method and request path and try again. If you remember, this is our base URL. What we need to do is actually just substitute this part. So let's go back to mock server. Let's get that. So we only want to change the base, I believe, not the whole string. So I think this should work now. So let's go back to Postman. Let's call the getAsteroids endpoint again. As you can see, the request was super quick, and we can also see that the results that we had in our collection are getting returned. So this is what is getting returned. You can see it from the ID. If you go back to our request, we can see that this ID has this name. But let's say for some reason you wanted to change the name to do some kind of testing. You can do that. You just need to go back to the collection, to the response that is getting returned. Let's look for the ID. In this case, is this one. And let's say you wanted to return an asteroid with a different name. So you can do that. You can just change the response and have LeetJourney asteroid. Command S to save. Let's do another call. You can see that we are getting the name that we have set in the response object that is getting mocked. So this was just an introduction on how to use Postman to mock API calls. There are a lot of different things you can do with this. I will put a link in the description below to the actual documentation, so you can see how you can configure dynamic properties and dynamic matching. And if you've ever wondered how I keep my coding skills sharp all year round, let me introduce you to Brilliant. Brilliant helps you become a better thinker and problem solver with thousands of visual, interactive lessons in math, science, programming, data analysis, and AI. Learning a little every day is one of the most important things you can do, both for personal and professional growth. Brilliant keeps you on track to reaching your learning goals, one day at a time. The Brilliant app makes it easy to learn anywhere with fun, hands-on lessons. Whether you are diving into a new topic or doing a quick practice session, you can level up at home or on the go. To learn for free on Brilliant, go to brilliant.org/LeetJourney, scan the QR code on screen or click on the link in the description. Brilliant has also given our viewers 20% off an annual premium subscription, which gives you unlimited daily access to everything on Brilliant. Huge thanks to Brilliant for sponsoring this video.